what are each of y'all doing right now that everyone should be considering right now?
You have to exercise. You've got to pay attention to food sources.
You know, I live with gratitude. Despite everything that goes on in life, we have to wake up every morning and realize our purpose and have gratitude.
You start to accept things as they are. Don't try to make the world try to be different than what it is right now. You plan on changing it in the future, but now it's what it is. If you stress about it, you're just wasting your time, your cortisol, and everything else.
Gratitude is a big part of it. When you acknowledge what you have now, you can expand. If you deny what you have now, you lose.
I don't want to live to 100 so I can serve me. I want to live to 100 so I can serve everyone else. And I'm very grateful to have like-minded people share that mentality, because I can tell you right now, not every physician thinks this way.
Welcome to the Brain Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Please join us on our mission to better a billion brains. Enjoy the episode and remember to share it with your family and friends.
Thank everyone for being here. My name is Jonathan Mendoza. I am very humbled to be sitting next to these wonderful people. These are people that I admire. I pulled together some of the finest minds in all of health and wellness right now who are doing some of the most disruptive things to help the general public, to help people feel better, to get better sleep, to live longer, healthier lives, to help heal their heart, and to help be the best athlete, if not the best person you could be. So without further ado, I have Dr. Patrick Porter, I have Christian Dupont, I have Dr. Ethan Bryan, I have Don Moxley here. They represent the current word on the street when it comes to health and wellness, not just biohacking. Okay, so between this right here, we have some of the most brilliant minds. First of all, what's more important right now to y'all than anything else when it comes to health and wellness?
Well, I think we're sitting at a tipping point right now. I just finished reading Peter Attia's book, Outlive, and he throws a concept in there called Medicine 3.0. That Medicine 1.0 was Hippocrates saying, hey, you need to exercise and eat well. That hasn't changed. But then we discovered germ theory. We have microscopes come along. We discovered germ theory. That's Medicine 2.0. But the problem is we now live in environments that are so unhealthy, particularly through sugar, lack of movement, things like that, that medicine's kind of a whack-a-mole on symptoms. We're now moving into a time called Medicine 3.0, where we can use wearable data, N of 1 decisions, information like that. And we're early in this. We're very early in this, but I think it's an opportunity. I think this is the next multiple decades of opportunity for everyone, where we can use individual decisions. And then I'll finish on this, I promise. Martin Seligman is a psychologist at the University of Penn, and he was the president of the American Psychological Association for a long time. And he said psychology at the time was about people moving from -10 to 0. And he said, why aren't we doing something to move people from 0 to 10? And that changed. That's where the positive psychology came. Well, this is what we're talking about now, that biohacking is really medicine 0 to 10. And you throw Medicine 3.0 concepts in on top of that. So whether you're using a BrainTap, or whether you're using stem cell regeneration, or whether you're using nitric oxide, or whether you try to boost autophagy or improve HRV, these are all things that lay in this Medicine 3.0 space that I think is a huge opportunity for us.
Yeah, I love it. Anyone want to add on that?
Yeah, I think the kind of the gap in what we're doing is translating the basic science into clinical medicine and point of care. You know, we understand the mechanism of disease of every single chronic disease out there. That's very well defined, very well elucidated. Now it's just taking that scientific knowledge and being able to translate that into patient care that clinical medicine. And I think that's what we're all doing. We're taking the science and now leading this charge for Medicine 3.0, actually getting to the root cause of every single poorly managed chronic disease out there today. And I think that's where we all really lead a lasting legacy.
Yeah. You know what Don and Nathan just mentioned, right now the main word in medicine is prevention. You want to prevent things. And I think what you just talked about, if I phrase that differently, is that now there's a real understanding that prevention is simply preventing the problem. You have not achieved anything if you just prevent the problem. So now it's going to one big step forward. It's basically health optimization, health management. So basically giving your body the chance to be the best that it can be, which is way, way beyond just not having a disease.
Sure. Right. I'll just add, what they said was wonderful. I don't need to add anything, but I had a meeting with TB12, which we're working with now, and they have a concept called Prehab instead of rehab. So when you think about Prehab, that's really what we're doing here at Biohacking. Why do you need a breakdown to have a breakthrough? Most people wait till they, when they get to be 30, 35, and they realize they're no longer immortal, then they start looking for it. But they now know the earlier you start, the better your cognition is going to be for life. And we all know there's no disconnection. When you're talking about psychology, when I went to school, it was all about diagnosing and just basically having a client for life. You didn't really want to fix them because you wanted to have 60 patients and we'd be coming in, cycling and giving you $125 a week. And I think it's terrible. It's a terrible solution because it isn't a solution. So right now, people are demanding it. I mean, more people in the last 3 years are saying, hey, I'm raising my hand, I'm going to be my own doctor.
Yep.
And I think there's so much education, like you're talking about this medicine 3.0. I think I'm going to steal that because that's a great. I need to read this book because it sounds very fascinating. So there's so much knowledge coming out. Yep. We're just 5 of the people here at this biohacking conference, right? These are people that prove it out for themselves, which I love. You look at medical conferences, which is what I usually go to, and Nathan knows, you guys know. You go there and you go, you guys are in health space? No, they're in sickness space. We need to move it out of the sickness space into the wellness space and be healthy. And I'm sure all of us here didn't know we were in biohacking until Dave said the word, and said we're doing biohacking.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's true. I was considered a biohacker years ago. I just liked vitamins, right? I mean, that's really what it came down to. And then people said, well, you kind of like improve yourself by not doing it the traditional way, which is traditional sleep, traditional sunlight, right? Eating foods like beets, right? People don't eat beets anymore. That's why they don't have nitric oxide, right? But what I've learned from each one of y'all is that you're on a mission right now to help educate. It's very different than you have from practitioners and doctors out there, right? I mean, y'all are literally training other practitioners to think differently. Right, like Dr. Brian, you talked about being in medical school, talking to all the medical students about nitric oxide, and it was just going, whoosh, So to tell me now, you said the demands there. I love this. In a place like this, to have to prove the science of what you're doing, it's not undermining what you're doing. What you're doing is you're changing lives, right? I mean, is that how y'all feel every day?
Right. I don't think we're on trial anymore. For a while, I mean, I've been going to these kind of shows actually since the 80s. I mean, I wish I could say I was doing something different. I just have different technology. In that time, we had conventions that wouldn't let me in. That same convention gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020 because of a member of their family that finally needed the service, and they started using it. So the thing is that when we find a need, like all of us have something, we all need stem regen, we all need nitric oxide, we all need the HRVs improved because we're all getting hit.
Yep.
Right? We need our liver cleansed and we need our brain fit. And the thing is, it's not one thing or another. It's all these things. How are you going to fit it into your lifestyle?
I want to be careful with the language here. I was getting ready to say the system is broken, and I think I have to be careful there. They're literally trying to change lives. The challenge is our environments have changed so dramatically and don't align with our DNA anymore. And I like Robert Lustig's book, Metabolical, where he talks about the fact that we now have this flywheel force in big pharma, big food, the medical institutions that feed off of the contributions of those. And again, it drives the back half of this whack-a-mole survival. And I started going to conventions in 1986. Okay, I went to the first URSA convention. It was about strength and conditioning and exercise, and we've seen this emerging for decades now, which frankly the fitness community failed. People are thinking about weight loss, not health optimization. What we're doing, I don't think we're proving, we're just teaching. All we're doing is saying, listen, every one of our products is backed by ridiculously sound science. And all we're doing is communicate. It's not backed by a drug company, and it's not backed by a big food group, and it's not backed by a university research team. It's all good science, though. It's all gone through the peer review process. It's all gone through this, and now we're teaching. And this just happens to be a group of people that want to learn at the head of the curve. So that's why we're here.
I love it. And let's move on to longevity. So that's the topic here. Stem cells, nitric oxide, HRV, your brain. I mean, right here alone, if you did, and I'm not going to call the products by name, but if you measured your heart, you measured your sleep, which I track, right? Nitric oxide, it's really hard to measure, but you have a device for it now too. I mean, these are non-negotiables at this point, right? I mean, we were, like you said before, sunlight was the healthiest thing you could ever get. Breathwork was the healthiest thing you could ever do, right? But no one's breathing correctly and no one's outside enough. I mean, we're literally indoors at a convention right now, so we're having to hack our way into all this, right? But the difference is there. I mean, talk about stem regen and stem cells right now, like it's mainstream, isn't it? Like,
Yes.
I mean, what are people saying now when we talk about stem cells?
Well, I would say the biggest difference, so I've been telling that story for 20 years. And literally at first it was, the obstacle was, it's not true, stem cells cannot become cells of other tissue. First obstacle. Then after that, it's a product that uses body parts, baby parts.
Yep.
Then you have to go through that obstacle.
Yep.
I mean, it's just like one obstacle after another one. And in spite of the science, it was just not going through. Like, people did not really accept the idea that the body could repair that easily. And I would say over the past year, there's a huge shift. Like, the same thing that I've said for so many years right now gets a really, really good reception.
Wow.
So something is really changing right now that I guess minds are open. It's I'm impressed. I'm touched by how things are being received.
Right, because that wasn't the case before. I mean, you were getting banned from things before. You were like, hey man, I'm just trying to get athletes to listen to their bodies, right? I mean, talk about nitric oxide, right? I mean, this is what's fascinating. Is Dr. Brian studying under the Nobel Prize winner for the discovery of nitric oxide. And right now he's trying to get everyone to tell people, like, you can't live without nitric oxide. So what reception has it been like now when you talk about heart disease?
It's an evolution, right? And now there's, these are fundamental truths that we've discovered. And it's been known for 100 years that fundamental truths go through three phases. First, it's ridiculed, it's violently opposed, and then it's accepted as being self-evident. So nitric oxide has gone through that. I've been ridiculed by my academic colleagues. It's been violently opposed, but now it's accepted as being self-evident. I mean, 190,000 scientific papers shows that the loss of nitric oxide is one of the earliest events in the onset of progression of every single chronic disease. So what we do, and I think collectively what we do, is we give the body what it needs to heal itself. Doctors don't heal patients. The body, cells heal patients. So we understand cellular biology to the extent that we can give the body what it needs. These cells can perform their function, animate the human, and prevent human disease. And nitric oxide is fundamental to that. So I think this whole concept is what we call restorative physiology. It's not pharmacology. We're not giving the body some form of substance. We're basically recapitulating endogenous signaling mechanisms and then allowing the body to heal itself. And nitric oxide is foundational for that process.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I think if people are watching this that think my body should heal itself, it should, but you got to get the materials. The innate knows how to heal. The brain knows how to heal. It's designed to heal.
Yep.
We're designed to do that. We're not designed to age at the rate we are, but the stressors in our life are causing that accelerated aging. So all of these things we're talking about is really not reversing for longevity.
Sure.
It's basically living our right life. They say our bodies should live to be 134 or something like that. Although Dave's going to live to be 350 or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And I don't care how long you live. I want to have quality of life while I'm living. I still remember my grandma when she was 92, and she made it a point to always eat a hamburger and drink Coke, and telling me that I was crazy for eating the way. And I said, Grandma, I'm not eating this way so I can live to be 90. I'm eating this way so I feel good after the meal. And if you really identify with I want to have a good life now. I don't want to wait for that. And that's the nice thing about biohacking is you can start to measure what you're doing. Like, I take your product, I take all your products, right? So, and it's like one of those things. My wife once joked. She said, if somebody can come into your hotel room, they'll think you're a transplant patient. But I said, you can't get it from food, especially when you're traveling. I mean,
the fact that our industrial food production system just does not produce a food that's rich in the micronutrients. That we measure production based on proteins, fats, carbohydrates, things like that. We're missing the lower level nutrients, vitamins, phytonutrients. And you know what? There's a value to raising your own food. When you can't do that and you have to go to industrial produced food, you have to make the decision to add the missing micronutrients because they're not there.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Back in 1950, right? Almost 75% of the people grew their own food.
Yeah.
Right, which is not the case at all. Everything's handmade in a store somewhere, delivered here on a truck. I talked to a cattle rancher friend of mine. He said it takes 2 steps to get the cow's beef from the farm onto your plate. 2 steps. how many people can say that about the food on their plate right now? So you imagine, you're right, Don. Everything that's in our environment now, Wi-Fi, EMFs, all these weird smells from all these, weird, like just weird stuff, right? So you imagine we have to fight this. But the number one thing that I learned is that the body's capable of doing it, though. So, like, I want y'all to take me through each one of the things that y'all have done ever since y'all been doing this, right? Because I know y'all changed your own lifestyle. Like you were telling me a while ago what you do. What are each of y'all doing right now that everyone should be considering?
You have to exercise. Unless you're Amish. If you're Amish, you don't need to exercise. But the rest of us, you have to move. You have to have programmed movement that is appropriate and not get caught up in dogmatic themes of whether it's HIIT or this or that, and put a KPI on it that you can track, okay? Don't just measure your success based on puddles of sweat. Number one. Number two is you've got to pay attention to food sources. You need nutrient-dense food. You need nutrient-dense diets, whether it comes through food or supplement. There's necessary nutrients that have to be there, and this is a space that we all have in common. Number three, you have to be able to get sleep. You have to have restorative sleep. You have to hack that environment. The problem is we have a lot of light in our environments that's frankly toxic. We have toxic light sources. There are nutritive light sources. You have to put this into your life and get out there and get nutritive life sources, whether it's getting into the sunshine in the morning and night, whether it's using red light or some other. And then finally, you've got to wake up and you've got to have a purpose every day. We're traumatizing people really well in our society. We traumatize really well. We're good at it. That's a problem because Neil Porges, the father of polyvagal theory, I was going through some stuff, and when someone's highly traumatized, one of the things they see they lose is purpose. When you become so hyper vigilant, you're living in the moment trying to be defensive. You can't get out in front of that. So I think you have to have purpose to create the energy to make the decisions to follow the other.
For me personally, I live with gratitude. Despite the attacks and despite everything that goes on in life, we have to wake up every morning and realize our purpose and have gratitude for what we're doing. The other thing, which we grow our own food. I live on 800 acres. We raise our own beef. We grow our own vegetables. So we control what we do in our own environment. So I sample the soil. I make sure the soil has the nutrients that it needs, so that the vegetables that we eat that are grown in the soil, and we have control of them. And I think I wish everybody was afforded that same opportunity, but it's really not that difficult. I think everybody could be able to do that.
Grow something in their backyard, right?
Calcium on your garden goes a long way.
Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. So grow your own foods. Grow your own food. I love it. Christian.
I mean, what you guys have said is the foundation. So the only thing I could add to this, to me, is how do you use your brain to think? Almost like all the problems that you have, they're not real. It's just the way you look at them that makes them problematic. Otherwise, almost everything is just it flows. So you start to accept things as they are. Don't try to make the world try to be different than what it is right now. You can plan on changing it in the future, but now it's what it is. If you stress about it, you're just wasting your time, your cortisol, and everything else. And your entire life can change just by stopping, looking at the situation, and realizing that the problem that you thought was there is not a real problem. And so adding this to the good food and everything else, good blood circulation, put some stem cells in the body.
That's
and
right.
let them work.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So, just to add to what they're saying, I always tell people you're either maintaining your own mind or someone's doing it for you. So there are techniques. That's why we do it in BrainTap. Is gratitude is a big part of it. When you acknowledge what you have now, you can expand. If you deny what you have now, you lose, because your subconscious doesn't know how to act. This is where you are right now. If you don't honor this moment, we're here by divine appointment. So what is the reason we're here? It's not for ourselves. The more we give to other people, I did a program with Daji, who has a program called Whole Health Meditation, and he wanted me to evaluate what their meditation did. And what I found out was the person transmitting the energy actually got a better result than the person they were transmitting the energy to. And so if you think about that in our own lives, when you talk about purpose, and my newest book that's coming out, the one publisher said, what's this thing about purpose? Why was I putting that in the book about the brain? I go, because if you don't have purpose, your brain will go to anything. And the old saying is, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that's what happened to us a few years ago. You've got to take control and know that we're here for a reason. It's not an accident. Out of all of creation, you're in this moment in time with awareness. You're waking up, and we're waking up every cell, and we need all these things to wake up. That's why when I did the talk here, I said, welcome to the resistance. Because that's what we are. There's a force out there, and I don't understand it. It's almost like they want to kill us, right? I don't understand what's going on, because even the Wi-Fi network, even our carpet, even the lights, we could have John-on lights here right now. We could have this floor could be a grounded floor. All of this could be changed, and it's not that much money difference. But they don't have purpose because people have myopic thinking and they think, I've got to grab it all now. Whoever has the most toys when they die wins. And I guarantee you, all that money, and then the government screws it up or whatever. The reality is that we need to live for today, but we need to act as if we're going to live forever. Because we are. We might not be there forever, but somebody's going to be there. And we need to make sure that it's better. And that's why, I just think that biohacking is the tip of the spear. But, and we want a better billion brains, because if we get a billion people and more, it's like multi-level marketing, right? If I become the best version of myself, I've transformed those people in my community, which will transform the world, really. So I love somebody has a t-shirt that says, serve one, serve all, right? Yep. So that's the reality of what we're doing here.
Well said. And I wanted to bring that up here. We're not dispensing medicine traditional way. Right, I used to give hugs in 2020. That was my medicine, honestly, because someone needed it.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, we have to prove through science that hugs raise your vibration, boost your immune system by 30%. I was reading, right? And imagine if you raise your HRV, you take nitric oxide, you get more sleep, right? And all of a sudden, you're like, well, I'm going to take something called Stimmergen because I know if this vintage car has a few more years in it, I want to run at full capacity, right? And so I think about it, the longevity biohacking. I want to live to 100. But the thing is, I don't want to live to 100 so I can serve me. I want to live to 100 so I can serve everyone else. And I'm very grateful to have like-minded people share that mentality, because I can tell you right now, not every physician thinks this way. Just to be honest, right? Because they're trying their best, but do they feel that they can? No, because the honest thing that we're trying to do is behavior change. Each and every one of us is trying to change someone's behavior, which is hard. You talk about trauma. Generational trauma is passed along from parent to parent to the point where you're saying, I'm this way because of my grandfather, my grandmother. And you're saying, no, you don't have to be. But you have to do BrainTap, Stimmergen, nitric oxide, raise your HRV to be in a position to then say, it's glass half full, not glass half empty. And that's what I learned, that if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't help anyone else. So you imagine what I'm talking about now, saying you have to put yourself first, because it's not selfish. Each and every one. I mean, I did a cold plunge with you at that last KetoCon, for crying out loud, right? I mean, that's literally, we're saying we practice what we preach, right? So I want to just emphasize, you have to take care of yourself, otherwise you can't serve anyone else, right? But that being said, what does the future of healthcare look like? Is it biohacking?
Well, I think that's one word. I mean, some people get turned off by that. I think it's health optimization. So when people think about it, you can call it biohacking. I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't at this conference that are doing really great work because they don't identify, because the word hacking has kind of a negative connotation.
Sure.
But I think that people understand you're not going to get it. If you don't go out and get it, you're not going to get it. Because if you're going to let the media serve you, what are they going to serve you? They're going to serve you whoever's buying the commercials. They're not in it for us. They're in it for the people paying them the money, just like our politicians. They're not in it for us. They're supposed to be, but they're in it by who's ever paying the bills and buying their yachts and buying their barbecues, whatever they're doing. So, we need to look at, and it's really going to be a community effort. You've got to find a community to deal with and find. Once you find your tribe and you realize that they're gainers, not drainers, you're gonna find out that life changes in a big way.
Love it. Well said.
I don't know if it's going to be the future of medicine, but I think it would be great if it became the future of medicine. It's really going back to the basics.
Okay.
Like there's a push right now to go so far into like scientific sophistication, but at the end of the day, good brain, good thinking, support the body's natural ability to repair. It's its innate potential to repair. Give body good circulation. How can you have good health? Think of any aspect of human health. How can you have good health if you don't have good capillary circulation, which is the only place where you can deliver nutrients to the cells.
True. I
You
mean,
don't
how
have
do you get your
circulation,
nutrients?
and you can put whatever you want in your body. It doesn't reach the target. That's the only place that it happens.
Yeah.
And then it helps the aging cells to rejuvenate. And right there, you've had here on this panel basically the simple core of what is human health. Grow your food, and that's it. Just do that. I mean, you've solved what, 90% of the problem.
Right here alone, this panel. Like I said, that's why I wanted y'all together. So that's awesome.
No, I think it's inevitable. The current healthcare system will implode upon itself. It's not working. We have the sickest population on the planet, despite spending more money per capita than any industrialized nation. So I think it's going to move. Medicine today is a reactive practice. I think what we're doing is trying to change people's thought process to be proactive. It's easier to prevent disease than it is to treat it. And I think when the current healthcare system implodes upon itself, this movement will move in, and this awareness is going to be global, and people are going to realize, hey, we've known for decades how to treat most chronic diseases that aren't being well managed today. And now this new system, we call it biohacking, we call it home optimization, but it's being proactive and taking accountability for your own health and not relying on the healthcare system to take care of you. You have to have accountability.
And it's still looking at it from the angle of symptoms, in diagnostic. Like you have poor blood circulation in the heart, you go see the cardiologist. You get poor circulation in the pancreas, you see the endocrinologist. You get poor circulation in the brain, now go see the neurologist.
Yeah.
It's just poor circulation. So somewhere we're focused on the label that we put on things and we miss the picture of just how the body just works naturally. I think this approach of looking at symptoms and labeling them is just like this. It's a failure. It's just not how it works.
Yes.
Well, and when we start labeling, again, moving from the 0 to -10 to the 0 to 10, we'll start to label a lack of performance a symptom rather than waiting till it's an organ failure and it's up higher. We'll do better. One of our challenges, this is one of the things, I remember at the onset of COVID, we're watching the news. No one knew what was going on. It was a novel virus. It was a lot going on. I remember watching this interview with a bus driver from Detroit. And this guy's like, they're interviewing, he says, I'm driving my bus, and some guy gets on the other day, he's coughing all over me. And then, like 3 days later or a week later, this guy's dead. This bus driver's dead. And this is a guy that woke up in the morning, wanted to take care of his family. He went and drove the bus all day. He probably stopped at fast food for breakfast. He went and worked. He went home. He sat down, put his feet up. Archie bunkered it, had a beer, and because that's what the environment supported. And we are all lucky enough to live lifestyles and to have the ability to live a lifestyle where we've got a little bit of bandwidth, where we can make decisions on how do we change our environments, how do we engineer our environments. We're lucky on that. There's a lot of people in this world that don't have that bandwidth yet. And again, they turn to medicine when they have a symptom. Medicine plays whack-a-mole. And I think part of our challenge, and this is a very big challenge right now, because we are a minority. Okay, there's the huge majority of people do not have this awareness. They're showing up, going to work, trying to pay their house, trying to pay for their car, trying to raise their kids, get them through college, and their health span is dramatically shortened, regardless of lifespan. So this is our challenge right now. How do we communicate to systems, to societies that let's help people with purpose more than, I love Peter Attia's concept of fast death, slow death. I like the idea of fast death. I love the idea. I hope I get to the point where regardless of my age, I hope it's a long time in the future, but I'm walking along the edge of the Grand Canyon and I slip and I get to enjoy the ride down. Okay? Rather than being stuck in a hospital bed with tubes in you for months, I hope I get the opportunity to enjoy fast death. I love that Legends of the Fall and He died a good death.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. It's coming. Everyone's leaving this rocket ship we're on. The question is, how do you want to go?
I love that. And I can say right now, we're at a longevity conference. I don't think anyone up here is afraid of death, which is fascinating because that's one of the biggest fears people have is that active hanging on, right? Hospice care, palliative care.
I'm afraid of illness. I'm not afraid of death.
That's incredible. That's true longevity, right? Because we don't ever die. I know, Christian, you said no one ever truly dies because all of our energy is going to be transformed into something else, right? That's what happens in physics, right? But then on top of it, the legacies that we're leaving, and I say we as a collective, strength in numbers, is going to be a ripple effect that's felt for thousands of years after this. So I'm very confident in our strength in numbers campaign right now. But just to wrap it up, because I love y'all, what is one thing right now that each of y'all are studying on your own time, not for your businesses, but your own time, that you find fascinating right now?
I am investing a lot of time trying to understand this convergence of technology, the digital nature of technology on top of the organic nature of our existence. Listen, everything has a positive and a minus. There's a positive and a negative. And you want to be able to understand what is the cost versus the value that it brings. How do you maximize the value and minimize the cost? 'Cause, listen, a hammer has a positive and a negative, okay? I can use a hammer to build a house, or I can use a hammer to smash my thumb. So there's a risk that comes with building the house, and that's smashing your thumb. Well, iPhones and all the other technology, and I'm normally wearing 3 or 4 or 5 different versions of technology. Being able to get a handle on that, I think, is where I invest most of my time.
Yeah, for me, it's really trying to understand energetic medicine. Trained is about chemistry, about the count electrons, right? So trying to understand mechanistically how these frequencies and energies are integrated into very cellular communication. And I think we're all spiritual beings, we're energetic beings. We emit energy that controls and dictates some of our destiny. So using a lot of these energetic devices, whether it's just grounding, walking barefoot, or using some of these electrical devices, how does that energetic medicine transform into biochemistry and physiology if we can really explain a mechanism of action and then harness that and then make it better?
What fascinates me right now follows a little bit what Nathan shared. I think that while we develop so many of these tools, that steadies our brain, I think it is a way of including that we acknowledge our brain is not enough. We need a computer for it, we need a wearable, and somewhere I think that we do have the knowledge of a lot of things that are happening in the body. So for me, if I'm summarizing it, near-death experience has showed one thing. When the body is gone, the brain is flatlined, people still come back with a really, really wise understanding of their life, wiser than they had when they were in their brain.
Makes sense.
I think the brain is a limitation. So find that thought process, find that thing that you are beyond the body and the brain, and I think that it's going to give so much more wisdom to them.
That's awesome.
That quest is
That's awesome.
absorption.
I think we could all look at what we're doing, and it seems like we're all kind of doing the same thing and researching on our own, because I believe in the underlying reality of all things is consciousness. And so when I started learning about biophotonic exchange, how it works in the body as being a spiritual being, we're really energy, we're light beings. Everything is translated into light, sound, and vibration. So there's a metaphysical concept to say, hey, we're light beings. Now science is proving that right. When the NIH actually says we have a biofield, that means that something's going on here. And I think consciousness is saying, it's time to wake up, guys. You're not these blood and gut vomit bags running around. This is just how we show up right now. But what are we going to be as we evolve, really translate into our true reality? What is that? And we get more energy from the sun than we know, from the air that we breathe, from the grounding we're saying. We get energy from all these things. And we've given all that power away. What's going to happen when we accept our power as individuals and then as a community? Because we're like cells in a body. We're just one. I'm one person, but on a global, I'm just one cell in this global community. If we can, they actually call it the Maharishi effect. So when you think about what happens when we all start moving in the same direction, moving in the same line, that's why, I believe that as we all work together, we all have a common purpose. And as we upgrade, one thing happens as you get better physically, mentally, and emotionally, you become more spiritual. And that's what I've been studying And now I can talk about it freely. 20 years ago, if I did that, they'd say, he's a crazy man, get him out of here. But the reality is that that's who we are, and don't sell yourself short if you're watching this. Whatever you think you're not, you are not that, you are something else. And that's why I love Ron Hairston from Austin. He says, there is no there. Don't think you're ever there. There is no there. You don't know what we're going to be. We're just at the beginning, the infancy of this. So that's where I'm researching.
That's incredible. I honestly feel the same way that y'all feel. I feel like I'm just beginning. I feel like I just started using BrainTap and NeuroCheck like a few months ago, and I'm like, oh my God, it's all about frequency and vibration. If I could literally hug someone to make them healthier, give them my vibration, you proved it. You imagine, I want to learn how to help people raise their vibration frequency so that it can create a mass ripple effect. So, wow. Hopefully we can continue this conversation in the future. Hopefully that y'all joined it. But thank y'all so much for what y'all do. Because honestly, you're helping a lot of people. Each and every one of y'all. And every time that y'all get up, understand that we're trying to do the same thing. So as a collective, we're going to do it. The age of awakening is right now. So thank y'all so much for being here.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on our mission to better a billion brains. Follow at Dr. Patrick Porter on social media for updates, and remember to practice brain fitness every day.